mathematically possible from a kind of logistic math point of view. We have to come at it because we're inspired to it. We have to come at it from, if you're Christian, you have to kind of die to our desires to make money, die to our desires to be famous, die to these social desires to be approved of others, and know that heaven is within. Approval of ourselves lies within ourselves. Okay, that's kind of heaven or peace of mind, and that as people have found out throughout the centuries, that once they do make the money, it's like, oh, why did I even pursue this money-making path when it was really the passion that was important? So we've got to realize it's the passion, it's the inspiration that is ultimately going to be life-giving. And we can't come at it from getting getting advancement in our social circles, so getting advancement in a social perspective, getting advancement from a money or survival perspective, or getting advancement from any other sort of perspective. We've got to do it out of love, out of kind of expansiveness coming from us, out of an inventiveness, a passion for invention, a passion for breaking outside of this box that we all have. That's what we gotta do at this point in time. There's no other solution right now to the crisis that we face other than coming up with free energy. What Schrodinger said, getting that energy from that cubic centimeter of space in front of us, using electromagnetic methods, maybe the Casimir effect, that residual energy could be a way, kind of looking at it from that point, could be a way of accessing the enormous amount of energy that's around us. And that seems scientifically ridiculous, but we've got to be ridiculous. We cannot bow down to the shame that would be put on us by thinking outside of the box. We cannot bow down to the shame of others. We cannot rely on the approval of others. We cannot do that. We have to be crazy. We have to be inventive. We have to follow our hearts and our passions. If we don't, we as a human species will likely become extinct. Their species extinction is accelerating. They're now calling this the Anthropocene era, the era of extinction caused by humans and human activity, hence Anthropocene. So we got to come at this from a perspective of inspiration. It doesn't, I'm not a brilliant person. I'm just kind of another dirt farmer accountant who's just, speaking stuff. Obviously, my knowledge of science and, things going on isn't tremendous. I'm just kind of another Joe Smo, speaking this to you. But I'm speaking it to my heart. And what matters is that we work from our heart, not how smart we are, not how literate we are, but that we act from our heart. And we'll learn. If we act from our heart and we do it without shame for ourselves and for the mistakes that we make, but we look back and we say, am I going to regret this action? Am I going to regret this? Not am I going to be ashamed about it, but am I going to regret it? Okay, and then we say, okay, well, do I want to do this or not? And know that the rain falls on the good and the bad. The sunlight falls on the good and bad. There is love and acceptance and approval no matter what action we make, whether that be experienced through the near-death experiences that people experience. Now, these near-death experiences, you can explain them from a materialistic standpoint and just say it's the unwinding of the brain. That's fine. Let's just leave it at that. It's the unwinding of the brain. But what does it tell us? It tells us that when people have these experiences, whether they're just, material or whether there's something more, okay, we can all come together and agree that they're telling us something. They're telling us what we intuit and what we desire. And that's important. What do we intuit and what do we desire? And we desire ultimately from these experiences to have connections, to live. What do we desire? What do we intuit? And let me step back a little bit. What it means, what a lot of people desire and intuit, is that there's unconditional love for all of them, and the shame and the angst and the worry and the pressure that they have from living in a scarcity and in a sociality and environment of scarcity and competition and judgment and shame, that ultimately at the underlying basis of things, that's an artificial construct of our environment. Okay, that's an artificial construct of what we have available to us and how we are relating to it. It's not an artificial construct, but it's a construct of it. It is not the way things are. It's more like a season than it is a permanence. And that's what people experience when they have a near-death experience, is a lot of them will experience unconditional love. No matter how bad, no matter how good they are, they come into the presence of enormous love. And the people who do, there are a small minority who do have hellish experiences, and that's usually because their brains come in at a death, at a great sense of fear. They live in the sense of fear, kind of this fear that, might produce, fear that, kind of fear of everything. There's just some people who live in a lot of fear, and they have to unwind that when they die, and so they have very fearful and shameful experiences. But that's a very small minority, and almost all of those, except maybe a handful that I've seen out of 10,000 that are out there, they work through that kind of hellish experience and come into this unconditional love. As far as I can see, that unconditional love, there's love for everything, and there's not judgment for anything that we do. So I think we can step back from judgment from any of our actions. Know that judgment is really based, if you do the math backwards, it's based on what aspect of my abilities or my actions is related to my survival. That's ultimately what it's about. Am I going to survive or not? And sociality and collective with other people. If I do bad actions, well, I'm going to be cast out of the group. And 10,000 years ago, when you were cast out of the tribe, you were easy game to predators and prey. And for most of human evolution, that was the case. It wasn't only until the last 2,000 years that you could live on I take that back, maybe 10,000 years at the most, you could live on a cave or a shack and still be able to support yourself by yourself using, because we had some form of agriculture that you could use on your own, or in combination with hunting and gathering, you could survive. But before those 10,000 years or so, you're dead if you're kicked out. And so there's a lot of judgment and in behavior, morals, or anything that would cause us to get kicked out, and that keeps us away from really thinking about what do we really regret. Do I really regret this action? Because that's where true morality is based on. Do I regret this? Not am I ashamed of this, but do I regret hurting somebody else? Do I regret the pain that's caused? And if we look at it from a materialistic endpoint, anything that separates us from anything around us is going to cause us pain, because there's a deep desire, because the way that this ecosystem operates is through connection. Everything in this ecosystem is connected. So anything that we do to sever connection through actions that we think are best at the time, or the best that we can do, or the best that we can do given our emotional state, the best that we can do given the pressures on us, the best that we can do given what we knew or the judgments we had. When you step back on it, there's no judgment on that. There's only love on that. And the regret that we have in this life is a separation that our actions cause from all that is around us, from people, animals, life, it's regret from separation from connection. So if we know that we want connection, let us pursue science, let us pursue philosophy, let us pursue disciplines that are focused on connection. And connection isn't really based on space and time. Connection goes beyond space and time, so we have to be willing to let go of that. We have to be willing to, step out of, what we see is what we get. What we see, sense, feel, and can observe is what we get. Because we know that there's more out there than, the wavelengths of light that we can see. The wavelengths of light that are reflecting off, various molecules because of the, the distance between the electrons and the way that configuration of the molecules will, reflect certain wavelengths of light back at us, giving us certain colors and perspectives and shapes. But there's a lot more to the universe than that. We know that. It's a lot more than what we see. And we need to be willing to explore that, because we are explorers. That's the heart of all life, and it's the heart of us, is we are explorers. And I desire that so many people understand this, that so many people understand that just let's be ridiculous, for crying out loud. Let's try what has been out there as far as free energy. Let's come together as a collective and try this. It is ridiculous. It is insane, but the only solution we have is insane. Solar panels, windmills, tidal generators, desalination plants, geothermal, and hydroelectric is not going to get us there, especially when climate change is going nuts. That's just going to knock everything down anyways, or burn everything up, or flood everything out. So why don't we just step outside of the box? We have the genius. We've made so many advances, yet we seem to be in arrested development. Doesn't it look like we're in arrested development? Yeah, we might be making advances in genetics or robotics or, computing. But outside of that, we're just kind of arrested. Our sociality is arrested. We're arrested in fear and, scrambling every day. From the worker to the CEO, we're scrambling to make ends meet, or scrambling to compete, or scrambling to compete against somebody else who's scrambling more than us. We can only scramble so much more before things are going to burn up, collapse, and blow up. Let's not do that. Let's think outside of the box. Let's let go of the shame that is so pervasive in this culture about being crazy, and let's be crazy. Okay, let's be crazy, let's be inventive, let's be courageous. Courage as fighters. Strength comes in being vulnerable. Strength does not come in fighting somebody else and in severing connection. Strength comes in connection. That is the soldier. That is the future of the military. The future of the military is to connect. It's a military of connection. It's a military of vulnerability. That is true manhood. And that is the direction that we need to go as a collective. Signing out.